Okay, my name's Paul Buck. I'm a little different than some of the guys who've been talking on this because I was drafted. I didn't join anything. And although I didn't ask to go, I don't regret the experience at all. It's without a doubt the turning point in my life that made me understand exactly what it takes to make up this country. I served in the Army and from 1965, October 1965 until October of 1967. I served in Vietnam from May of 66 until June of 67. The Army, although I can't say it was a bad experience, I learned an awful lot in the Army. We had a few bad times in Vietnam, and I'll get into that in a second, but start out with in basic training, I looked at it as just something I had to go through to get to where I wanted to go, which was out. Basic, I didn't find too bad at all. One of the funnier stories of basic training, I met a guy named Walker. He's a big black kid. He's 6 foot, maybe 230, 40 pounds. And come find out he just was raised about a mile from my house, and I'd never met him before. I couldn't understand how that happened, but real nice guy. But that was about the time Bill Cosby was coming into popularity, and I was a big fan of Cosby's, and I had all of his stuff memorized word for word. So the first night of basic, I was spouting off all the Cosby stuff, kind of entertainment for the guys after lights are out. And when I got to Fat Albert, it really hit home with Walker, because he was Fat Albert. There's no doubt about it. You could tell exercise just wasn't a word that he used a lot, you know. So all the way through basic, we would always line up side by side. And as they would come down inspecting the ranks, I'd kind of lean over and whisper like my favorite Fat Albert imitation, a little hey, 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 you know. And of course Walker would crack up laughing. Sergeant would be right up in his face just screaming and hollering, make him get out and crawl in the sand. And I really believe that Walker probably lost 30 pounds thanks to me and Bill Cosby and Fat Albert in basic training. I ran into him once in Vietnam, but I don't know if he made it back or not. In Vietnam, I went over, like I said, in 66. And most of Vietnam was sweat, hard work, and boredom. Can't say enough about the boredom and the loneliness. It's something you just can't understand until you've been there. But we filled sandbags for 16 hours a day when we first got over there, and everybody backs were blistered and everything, building bunkers for our guns. We were 155 howitzer outfit. But then I became a cook, so I kind of got taken off of that, which didn't hurt my feelings any. But then after a while, I became bored with that and went on the guns for a while, 155 howitzers. But then one of the cooks, they lost him somehow, I can't remember now how. But they asked me to come back in the mess hall, so I went back as a field cook, and I'd spend most of my time out in the field with the guys. An easy job. All I had to do was cook breakfast and serve C rations for lunch, and then our supper meal they would bring out from base camp, and I would serve that. Kept coffee going all night, and that was about it. Wasn't a bad job. But then in November 66, I was making coffee one day, and the howitzer closest to me was about 50 yards from me. And they had fired a 10-minute prep, which means they fire as fast as they can for 10 minutes. They're prepping an area for an infantry outfit to go into. And when they got a ceasefire, they didn't get a clear tube, which means you fire the last round out to get it out of the hot tube, because the tube just gets white hot, and they wouldn't let them clear the tube. Then when they did fire, the gun blew up, and it set the powder on fire that they had stored by, and the flame was enormous, and somebody yelled that the powder had caught on fire and the whole hill was going to go, and told everybody to run. And I could see all this happen. I could see everybody running everywhere. And I started running off the LZ, and then it dawned on me I didn't have my weapon with me. And I didn't want to go out enemy territory without my weapon, so I headed back to the mess tent. And as I come up, the fire had died down, so I went up to try to help around the gun. And one of our guys was laying face down. And then as we rolled him over, he opened up across here. The breech had come off and cut him in half from here to here. And we tried to pull him back together and tried to help him as much as we can. He was screaming for his mother, and he died. He died right then, and there's nothing we could do. And there were 3 other guys killed that day. And this with me every day, you know, since then. And I can still smell the flesh burning every day. I'm sorry. But after that, things kind of returned to normal, and we went on with our usual routine. We'd help support infantry and fire, H&Is. H&Is is harassment and irritation. It's where you fire at random to different areas to kind of keep the VSC and VC on their toes a little bit. Then Christmas, 1966, they had a ceasefire for 4 days. And we had a good time. And we had a big Christmas dinner laid out and had turkey and ham and the whole 9 yards. It was nice. Then the day after Christmas, actually the morning of the 27th, at LZ Bird, we were overrun by 1,200 VC. And we lost a lot of guys, a lot of good men. But that's just part of it. It's part of the game of war. And as bad as some of the memories are, I'd do it again today if that's what it takes. Because that's what it's all about. We're there for those people and for our people, and you do what has to be done. That's all there is to it. But I have trouble sometimes coming to grip with the facts that so many guys were killed, and I'm unscathed, you know, I don't have a mark on me. And the guy that I told you we rolled over, he was a good friend of mine. And the night we got overrun, the guy in the bunker next to me, his name was Ron Sotilio. The other guy was Leon Fox, both good men, great men. And I tried to write both their parents, and I couldn't. I tried 100 times at least, and couldn't. Well, just in the past 3 years, I guess, I got to writing a little poetry. And one of the poems I wrote, if I can read it, I dedicated to those 2 guys. I kind of combined them in this poem. So if I could read this, I'll try. It's called I Tried to Speak. It says, I tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come to comfort the parents he was taken from. He left as a boy for a faraway land to fight a war he didn't understand. He never knew the comfort of a loving wife. He never saw the miracle of a newborn life. There was just so much he missed out on. His life had barely started, and now he's gone. How do you ease the pain of his mom and dad? How do you justify the loss that they've had? Help them, Lord, and dry their tears. Comfort them, Lord, and keep them near. And bless him, Lord, and save him a place among those covered by your loving grace. And I think about those guys a lot, and some others. The bond you form with guys in a combat zone is unlike everything you'll ever know in civilian life. I have no doubt that any of the men I knew over there that are still existing today, if if it came down to it, they would give their life for mine, just like I would for them. There's no doubt in my mind. But one of the real problems I have had, and I think every soldier has out of a combat zone, is living with the guilt. And if I could, I'd like to give you another poem I wrote that I called Guilt, based on my experience. And it goes, I have to wonder sometimes if I'm really worth the price. What have I done or what can I do that could be worth a human life? I served long ago in Vietnam with men as brave as any, and I understand that brave men die, but Lord, must there be so many? I'll never understand, no matter how I try. Is it just a crapshoot who will live or die? Or were we chosen, we who survive? Is there some reason why we are still alive? This feeling of guilt I'll always have simply for being alive, when so many other brave young men were somehow unable to survive. And that's just the way I see it. But I think, like I say, I think that's something every man has to come to grips with, and the way I have done it. I am a Christian man, and I believe in God, I believe in Christ. And I believe we go to a better place when we die. So the way I come to grips with it in my heart is I believe these men were better men than I, and were called to their reward because they were. Now, other than that, I don't have a lot to say. The military, although was hard at times, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. I was glad it was me that went instead of one of my brothers. I had two other brothers that served, one in Germany and one in Fort Meade, Maryland. I think the military makes good men out of a lot of punks. I was probably one of them. And I wish they had never done away with the draft. I think the military is good for a kid. I know it was for me, although you'd have a hard time convincing me of it at the time. But the men that spoke here, and men like them all over the world, are why our country is the greatest in the world. And I really think it's a worthwhile endeavor for any boy. That's all I have to say. Thank you.